So if you're comfortable, you're welcome to join in our land acknowledgement. The Creator, overflowing with love, breathed all of creation into being.
God made people of character and career, God's creatures and each other.
We acknowledge that the land on which we live, work, and worship today is the land traditionally cared for by the Anishinaabe, Adewonderang, Haudenosaunee, and Métis peoples.
When our ancestors came, they imposed taxes that led to our relationships.
We acknowledge the enduring presence and deep traditional knowledge, laws, and philosophies of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today.
We long for reconciliation with our Indigenous siblings, so that together we can care for creation, share the land, and resources as the Creator intended.
So I'm going to invite Tammy to introduce our guest.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming online. Acting Inspector Brad Hull is an auxiliary inspector for the West Region with the OPP. For those of you who don't know much about the rank structure, the inspector is pretty near the top of the food chain. He started his auxiliary career here in Wellington County almost 15 years ago. OPP auxiliary members are all volunteers, which I did not know until I met him the other night, who help local detachments with community crime prevention programs, crowd and traffic control at community events, and accompany regular force officers on patrol. When he's not on duty with the OPP, Brad works for a large accounting firm. I'm going to turn the mic over to him.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to present to you this morning. When Tammy reached out, the initial ask was to do a safeguard presentation to talk about safeguarding your properties. And I asked, can I do fraud as well? Because yes, it's important to safeguard your properties. However, say to me, what do we see more of right now? Residential break-ins or seniors being victim of fraud, or anyone being victim of fraud, and fraud is definitely ahead of the game right now. So that's part of the reason why I asked if I could make this a bit of a hybrid presentation. However, I will apologize in advance. There's a lot of content. I'm going to have to go really quickly to keep to the hour. But I am able to, I'm able to remain around till about 12:30 afterwards for any questions. I just want to make sure that I get through the content within the time frame allotted for any of you that might have to leave earlier, or if our guests online need to leave around the 11 o'clock time. So that's the lay of the land as we will go this morning. So we'll ask just to hold questions until after I've completed. Okay, thank you. All right, so the next hour or so, we're going to talk about, I was supposed to have a partner here with me this morning. She wasn't able to make it, unfortunately. So if I say we, it's because my notes say we, and my brain just wasn't quite do the translation quickly enough. So we've got some really important information on how to safeguard your home as well as safeguard your money. And by the end of the session, I hope to have given you good introductory information on this to help you with that preliminary step, as well as some sources for additional information, should you want to look into more stuff after the presentation. Now, I think I'm... Oh, other way. There we go. Down is up. All right. So the Safeguard Ontario program is a public awareness and education program put on by the auxiliary unit of the Ontario Provincial Police, and is designed to help you protect your valuables at home and protect your home. So typically, what happens is, if you are a victim of a residential break-in, very shortly after the break-in, you'll get a call from one of the officers at the detachment offering you what's called a safeguard property audit. And if you accept that, a couple of auxiliary members will come to your house, and we would literally start at the road and work our way in, looking at lighting and trees and shrubs and doors and windows and locks and strike lights and every single component of the security of your property. So what this presentation is it's kind of a distilled version of that with some of the key pieces of information, key things that we are looking for when we are out on that audit. So hopefully some of this information you'll remember your house, and you can stand starting at the road, looking at your house and saying, oh, Brad said that's really bad. That might be good to change that. And I'll explain why all of these things are important. So you not only have me telling you what it is you need to do, but have an understanding as to why. So the safeguard program was developed to reduce the frequency of break-ins. I think I went one slide too far. Yeah, reduce the number of basically repeat break-and-enters. Because we know if you are the victim of a break-and-enter, the odds of being victimized again within the next 12 months is extremely high because the thieves know your property. They also know that whatever they took, you're likely to replace. They also know that a lot of people don't make any changes to their property after a break-in. So criminals are not dumb. They might be idiots, but they're not stupid. So our goal is to reduce re-victimization through this program and to empower you. And that is a theme in both this part and especially in the fraud component is I want to empower you with information and knowledge. So already mentioned this very high repeat break-in frequency. So from a criminal point of view, which is very hard for all of us to understand the criminal mind because most of us in this room, all of us in this room, have never thought about, oh, how could I break into someone's house and steal stuff? It's just, we can't understand because it's a different frame of mind than what we have. I have this discussion with officers all the time. It's like, why on earth would somebody do whatever it is that they did? But we're looking at it from the point of view of somebody that would never think of doing that, so we really can't understand. But there are three things that the criminal has in their mind. Number one is the desire to commit the crime. Number two is the ability to commit the crime. And number three is the opportunity to commit the crime. So there's very little that we collectively, including police, can do to the desire. You know, there's legislation and so on and so forth, there's punishments that if somebody gets caught, but there's not a lot that we can do on that. There's also very little that we can do about the ability of somebody to commit the crime. What we can do is we can significantly impact the opportunity for somebody to commit a crime. That's where we're going to be focusing today, is breaking that part of this triangle. And if we can do that, if we break any of these components, then the crime's not going to happen. So from our perspective, there are three deterrents, three components to the deterrence of crime, or to prevent crime. Number one is to deter, to discourage the criminal from even attempting the crime. The second is to delay, increase the amount of time that it's going to take them to commit that crime. And the third is detect, increase the chances that they're actually going to get caught. So all of the components of safeguard that we talk about are going to feed into each of these three areas in this triangle. So again, if we effectively do any of these three, the odds of a crime being committed diminish dramatically. So how do we do it? How do we deter, delay, detect? This is where safeguard comes in, and it's based on something called CEPTED, Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. Don't worry, there's not a test at the end. But there are 4 components that I'm going to talk about today that go into SENTED. There's natural surveillance, which is what can a passerby or a neighbor see from their vantage point. They can naturally surveil the property. The next one is what we call natural access control, and that is things like fences and walkways and other ways of controlling where and how somebody accesses a particular property. The third is territorial reinforcement, and this is anything that makes it very clear a delineation between what is public space versus what is private space. It can even be something as simple as, when I lived in Guelph, I put a little row of pavers at the end of my driveway. So asphalt driveway, gray pavers, then the roadway. That's a form of territorial reinforcement because it very clearly delineated when you walk off the road across those pavers, now you're on my land, you're on my property. So there are lots of different things you can do on that. And then the final one, which is a very large component of the property audits that we do, is target hardening. And that's things like locks and alarms and all those different things. So let's get into some of the details here. So we're going to start out on the exterior and the things that we look at in the exterior of a home when we come out to do audits. Number one is the natural surveillance side of things. So we start at the road out in front of your house, and we're going to have a look. What are the trees? What are the shrubs? What are the fences? Are there areas around doors or windows where somebody could hide? You know, I know we all like to have nice looking trees and shrubs around our house, but some of those are a perfect place for someone to hide from anyone seeing them from the road. Are there areas of shadow, areas where people can, sneak in behind some other component of your property that just gives them that comfort that they're not going to be seen? So let's have a look at a couple of examples here. Who thinks that the picture on the left is good? And anyone think that the picture on the right is good? It should be pretty obvious, given what I just said. There's a lot of places for people to hide there, right? They can really hide. You can't even see the front door from the roadway. So a thief who wants to get in, they can go to that door and they've got all the time in the world. They don't need to worry about anybody passing by seeing them. Whereas the house on the left, much more likely that they're going to be seen. Another pointer, please make sure your house number is large, nice contrast, not gray on gray, and if possible, has some sort of illumination. That is critical because there are times if you need emergency services and they need to find you, that easily readable number can make a real difference in how quickly emergency services can get to you. So just a quick aside on that. Here's a really great example. Yes, it's extreme, but we see it. Now, at least they got kind of a fence there, but man, once you're over that low fence, even I can jump over that one. And once you're over that, no one knows you're there. So again, a little extreme, but gets the point across well. So now let's move on to territorial reinforcement. The building on the left, I'm not even going to bother asking. I think you know which is good, which is bad. The one on the left, it's really hard to tell what door do you go to? Where does the property line start? Where does it end? It's very difficult to discern that. Whereas the one on the right is very clear. on the territorial reinforcement. They've got the fence, they've got the walkways, there's clearly one way to access this property. There's one direction that you're being forced to go in. And that makes a difference to the criminal's perception. The more controlled and clear and clean and well-maintained the property is, those are all signs that they look for. And if those are in place, they get a little more concerned about actually trying to access and break into the property. Caring shows that, caring about your property shows that there could be additional things in place that might scare them off. So again, really nice clear pathway on the left. Very difficult to tell where you're supposed to go on the right. So have that critical eye when you look at your own properties. Is it clear where people are supposed to go? And this is a little more of the natural access control as well as the territorial reinforcement. Fencing is something that we all use to reinforce our property and our privacy. However, there are some things that make good fences and some things that make bad fences. So the one on the left, because it delineates the property line, has that territorial reinforcement, but you can see what's going on the other side. It's not creating a hidden zone for criminals. The one on the right, you've got no idea what's going on the other side of the line. Now yes, there are instances where you want your privacy, of course, but depending on where the fence is and what it is that you're protecting or reinforcing, you might want to consider whether you want to make sure that people can still see through. There are instances where it's important to be able to do that. These bits, by the way, are very warm.
I'll take it off.
I'm not allowed to.
You know what you're doing, Sherry? Oh, no clue, dude.
So a quick summary on the exterior. Does the landscaping fencing promote natural surveillance by not obstructing the views to your property and not providing hiding places for criminals? Generally, we say ground plants shouldn't be any higher than 2 feet or 60 centimeters. Trees should be trimmed up to 6 feet. And if you think about those two trimming guidelines, what does that create? A nice clear sight line right at the typical of anyone that might be trying to get onto your property. So again, take a critical look at your property, and I know we spend a lot of money on our landscaping, and sometimes I've gone to houses where I've said to people, it's beautiful, but recognize that you have created a lot of hiding spaces for criminals. And some people have gone and they've made changes, others have said, no, I'm not changing it, I like what it is. I recognize we've got that risk inherent there. Make sure you have lighting at all of your entrances, and ideally make it a motion light. So and you can get them, you can adjust sensitivity, because I know there's a lot of creatures out there at night, but it's important that as somebody comes to the house, they are illuminated. And with the motion lighting, and they're not expensive, you can replace outdoor fixtures with a motion sensitive light fixture for less than $100. But it's a very, very good deterrent, because once again, that draws attention to the house, makes it really clear. The criminal will, now I can be seen even more. So lighting is very, very important. And keep your yard tidy. And anything that you have outside in your yard, look at it and think, could this be used to get into my house? For instance, any of you have a ladder lying along the side of your house? Criminal could easily pick that up, take it around back, put it up to an upstairs window and go in that way. You might have great locks and security and everything on your ground floor, but you got a ladder lying outside, you just defeated all of that. Likewise, are the things that somebody could pick up and just throw through a window to break it. We see that a lot. You know, again, I know we all spend a lot of money on decorative stuff around our homes, but sometimes there are things that are way too tempting for criminals to use to break windows. So keep that in mind as well, please. So that's our overview of the exterior. Let's move to the interior now. So these are more focused on the detection and deterrence, of course, and it's mostly revolves around target hardening. So here's some statistics for you on where burglars go in on a typical single-family dwelling. 32%, almost a third, for an unlocked door or window. Pretty simple message there. And I know we all do it, we all sometimes forget, but that is a very important defense. Forced entry by impacts, kicking a door, breaking a window. We'll talk about ways to make that more difficult for a criminal. Again, prying or jimmying, same thing. We'll talk about ways to make it much easier, or much more difficult for criminals to pry or jimmy doors. Picking locks, not very much. Now this one, 5% entry attempted but failed. That's hard to know because you'd only really know that if they tried and they were on video or somebody saw them or there was some damage that they looked at afterwards and thought, that looks like someone tried breaking in. And then, sometimes we're not sure where or how they get in. And that's usually because there are multiple ways that they could have gotten in. A lot of the time we will see it's really obvious where they went out, because often they'll just run out and leave the door wide open, right? But it may be difficult to figure out where they actually went in. So mostly, first floor windows, front doors, back doors, a little bit in garage, but not very much up to the second floor. That's too much work. Criminals don't want to work that hard, unless they really, really want what you have. And we'll talk about that as well. The whole advertising your belongings, for instance, by being out in the backyard, doing yard work and leaving your garage door open, and along the back wall of your garage door, you've got all of your nice tool collection, or you've got kids or grandkids' bicycles, and a criminal driving by goes, oh, look at all that nice stuff. I'm gonna come back there. From a door perspective, there are some very, very key things. So at the end of this, when you all go home, I would like you to take a very close look at the deadbolt that you have on all of your doors. Your front door, your back door, the door in from your garage. We want at least 1 inch of, we call it throw, for that deadbolt. So when you lock it, you want at least 1 inch protruding out into the strike plate. That goes a long way on its own to making it much more difficult to kick the door in. You also want to make sure that your front door is solid or metal. It's quite surprising how easy it is to kick in. Like, there's some very flimsy, hollow core wooden doors out there that are surprisingly easy to kick in. So, but again, that starts getting into an expense. Replacing a front door is more expensive. Replacing a lock on a front door is not that expensive. So keep these things in mind, and we say this all the time when we're doing the property audits. You need to establish your comfort threshold. We'll have recommendations. You also have financial thresholds. We certainly recognize that. So we always try to make sure that we're giving recommendations that are low cost as well. And that deadbolt is one of the very low cost ones. The other side of the door is also really, really important, what we call the strike plate. Have a look at that. The typical residential build has the part where the deadbolt goes into on the door frame. Usually it only has 2 screws, and they're probably half an inch long. And they're probably screwed into a wooden door frame. So if you think about that, that is not very strong. So what you want to look for, and what you can replace it with, is a 4-screw strike plate, like the picture on the right. And you'll notice that 2 of the screw heads look larger. So we recommend that at least 2 of those screws be about 2.5 or 3 inches long. And you drive them straight through the door frame. That adds tremendous strength to that door. Now I know a lot of doors have side lights. So for instance, where I live, my front door is a side light. So it's basically a sideways 2x4 that the deadbolt is going into. So I had a challenge, how can I strengthen that? So I was able to buy a very long strike plate that takes not only the deadbolt, but also just the regular door clasp, I'm not even sure what that's called. When you turn the handle, that little part that sticks out. Both of those go into this same strike plate, and it has 11 screws. So I've done as much as I can to make that harder to destroy. And again, it's deterrence, and it's a delay factor. Because doing all of this stuff, if somebody stands there and kicks, and kicks, and kicks, and kicks, they're gonna get through it. But thieves know this stuff. They can walk up to the door, they can look at it, and they can say, man, that is a really good deadbolt. If that's a good deadbolt, they probably have a really good strike plate. This one's gonna be hard to kick. Yeah, there's a lot of houses around here, that's gonna make a lot of noise. I'm gonna go on to the next house. Now, not nice to send them to your neighbor. That's why, with all of the information today, please take it and talk to your neighbors and tell them some of these suggestions that you heard. So yeah, that delay factor is huge. If you have, I'm just trying to check what we do. Sorry, I just wasn't sure if we had the slide for this. If you have sliding doors, a lot of people have this at the back. There are a couple of things, they're built better now than they used to be, but there are 2 real vulnerabilities to this. Number 1 is a thief can put something under the bottom of that door and pry it up, and a lot of them will just lift straight up off the tracks. And you can slide it out and boom, you're in. A really simple fix for that, up in the top, in the track in the top, just get a screw and drive it up into the frame at the top so that the door can still close, but that it creates basically something that stops the door from being able to be lifted up. Really simple. That's only a few cents for a screw. I've done that on my door. The other is, any of you have these and you've got a hockey stick laying in the track at the bottom to keep it from, That's very popular and it's surprisingly effective. Some of them come with the drop-down bar, but if you don't have that, just a stick of wood lying in the track is extremely effective. Then they might be able to try prying at the lock, but then they can't get the door to slide anywhere. And again, it's a visual deterrent, because even if you have blinds on the inside, you can still see that track from the outside. And if they look down, go, great. Now they're thinking, I'm gonna have to break this. That's loud. That draws attention. So a lot of little things that you can do that are virtually zero cost to improve the security of your own home. You can also do something in the left picture at the bottom. So you can drill a hole straight through the frame and just put a pin or a nail or something through there. And again, that just stops it from being able to be opened. Interior lighting. If you're away, especially for any extended period of time, it's important to make your house look lived in. Make it look like somebody is there. Timers are not expensive. Smart lights now are less expensive and getting really easy to use. Integrate with apps. You can literally control your lights from anywhere in the world. You put your lights onto an app. You can access it online anywhere. But criminals will watch for patterns. They'll drive around and they'll say, hey, you know what? For the past 3 nights, there have been no lights on in that house in the evening when most people are home. And now you've just given a red flag to them. So, again, those timers are really inexpensive. Just put them to cycle on a couple of times in the evening. You can even have one downstairs, one upstairs, have the one go off downstairs, go on upstairs. It looks like somebody's moving around in the house. Really easy to do and not very expensive either. And the last thing I'm going to mention in the safeguard side of things is bystander apathy. And I'm sure many of you have heard that term. It's the phenomenon where people will see something happening and they won't do anything. Either because they say, that's not my problem, that's someone else's problem. Or they will assume that somebody else has called. Please don't do that. We would far prefer to get 6 calls on the same thing than no calls at all. It doesn't take much. You don't have to leave your name if you don't want to. When you call our comm center, we will take anonymous complaints. But please, if you see something that seems out of the ordinary, call us. And at the end of the presentation, I have some stickers here with the OPP non-emergency number. Because I know sometimes people are like, oh, we're not supposed to tie up 911. Don't know if this is really a 911 call or not. I'll give you the sticker with the number, so you've got our non-emergency number. It all goes to the same communication center, just different call takers. Point for you, any of you know where the communication center is that covers here? Is it London? London. Yeah. Used to be in Mount Forest until before I started, but yeah, it's in London now. And there is a Wellington County dispatcher in London, and they have all the maps and all the information and direct communication with all the officers here. So if I had my radio on, you'd be hearing London talking to me. And the final point, talk to your neighbors. Again, it's something that we don't do as much as we used to, but I think of growing up in Owen Sound, everybody. We all knew everybody up and down the street. And that's less and less common. At least talk to the people on either side of you, and if you can, behind you. Just get to know them. Let them know you a little bit as a person, and if you're going somewhere, tell them and ask them, can you just, if somebody drop some stupid paper or flyer on my porch, can you just go grab it for me? Can you please shovel my driveway while I'm away? Make the place look cared for and lived in. That goes a very, very long way. All of this information is available on the OPP website. This and a lot more. So I encourage you to go there, opp.ca. There's a link on the front page, Explore the OPP, and it gives you a search box. And if you type in safeguard, all one word, it will bring up all of the safeguard materials, including a lot of the pictures that I had in this presentation. Okay? All right. Now we switch to fraud. I'm just going to grab a drink of water. Is that helpful?
Yep.
All right. As I said at the beginning, this is one area that we are seeing more and more people falling victim. And it is, I find it personally infuriating when I hear of, especially a senior who has worked hard their entire life, saved for retirement, and then gets suckered in by a scammer and loses their retirement savings. It's heartbreaking. They are professionals at this, and that is an important thing to remember. This is their job, this is what they do every day. They get very, very good at it. They are expert psychological manipulators. These are important things to remember. This can happen to anybody. There might even be somebody in this room who has been victim of fraud. A lot of the time, the vast majority of the time, these go unreported because people are embarrassed, people are ashamed. They think, how on earth could I have been so stupid? You're not stupid. It's because they are expert psychological manipulators. So if you or anybody you know has been a victim, please talk to somebody. Do not suffer in silence. This can eat you up inside. Don't let it. You need to share, and we'll talk about when and who and how at the end of this. But this is really important to make sure that you don't suffer in silence if you have been a victim. There's a program in the UK called Take 5 to Stop Fraud. And basically the premise is take 5 minutes, stop the conversation, and take some time to think about what's going on. Because they rely on a sense of urgency, a sense of panic, a sense that if I don't do this right now, somebody is going to go to jail, or they're going to come and arrest me, or something really bad is going to happen. So, and it's combined with another program, Take 5 and Tell 2. So take 5 minutes and talk to 2 people about what's going on. And it's very, very difficult with some of these. I'll get into details on what some of these scams are. It's not easy. And that's why we do these presentations, just to get this information out to empower you to be confident enough to do this. I count myself into the gray hair group. We were all taught to be polite, respectful, helpful. This sounds really harsh, but if somebody is calling you, don't be polite. You don't need to be polite and respectful. Hang up. Unless you are 100% sure who you're talking to, and they're not asking you for money, If someone is calling you unsolicited and threatening you or saying something or saying you need to pay something or wanting your money, hang up. If it's something that you feel you need to talk to them about, I'll tell you how to properly get back in touch with them. But we're going to stop and challenge and protect. Stop the conversation. Challenge what they're saying in certain circumstances, that's the right approach as well. And protect, make sure that you're reporting. We'll tell you exactly where and how to do that. So, there's 4 frauds I'm going to run through today. And the first is the romance fraud. And again, I'd say it's possible somebody in this room, actually I know they're in, might be been out there on a dating site. I'm a divorce guy, I'm on a dating site. It's a minefield out there. And this is a nasty one as well, because they go for your heart. None of us like being lonely. We're looking to find some kind of companionship somewhere. Online is a way that a lot of people are doing that. How it works is the offenders are using the social media or dating sites. They're creating a fake profile. They're using fake pictures. They're making up an entire profile. And frequently what they'll do is they'll make it sound like they're like you in a lot of ways. They have the same interests. They like to travel. They like to cook. They like to volunteer. All sorts of different things. And they will work on developing that relationship with you. And as they develop that relationship and that trust, then they'll start asking for money. And they are invested in this long term. We're not talking days. We're not talking weeks. We're not even talking months. Some of these go on for years. Because the people perpetrating this, it's not one person. There's a group. So if they say, you know what, okay, this is my 8-hour shift, but Mary was expecting a call at 2 a.m. her time, so you need to make sure the next guy comes in for his shift, his work, and it'll be a different person. They'll say, oh no, I have a cold, so my voice sounds a little different right now. It's all sorts of different things that they use. It's quite surprising. So the red flags to look for in a romance scam. Number 1, it's too good to be true. So my little quick story, I had a profile on one of the dating sites, and one day I opened it up and there was this message. It said, hey, you know what? You're really handsome. I like to travel too. I like to volunteer. I said I like to volunteer. I certainly didn't say what I do as a volunteer. But I said I like to volunteer. It's important to me because it is. And all the same things. It's like, yeah, I like to volunteer, I like to travel, blah, blah, blah. And I click and I look at the picture, and it's this gorgeous mid-30s blonde. And I just thought, as much as I love this to be true, not a chance. Not happening. But we want it to be true, right? So you have to be really careful. They're experts at this. So that's one. The profile's too good to be true. They also really quickly say that they love you because they want to get their claws into your heart. Because we all have had times in our lives where our heads are telling us, don't do this, don't be dumb, but our hearts take over, right? We've all had that, and they know that. They will also claim that they actually live close by, but they're overseas. They're overseas for work or visiting relatives or friends or something, but it's most often for work, or that they've relocated for, just I got tired of living in Erin and decided that I'm gonna move out here. So there's all sorts of excuses as to why they can't meet you in person. And there will be lots of, oh yeah, you know what? Okay, at the end of April, I'm gonna come back home and we can meet up, I'll give you my flight number, blah, 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 and then something will happen. Oh, I broke my toe, or I got COVID, I can't fly. all sorts of different excuses. They'll just keep going on and on and on. But at the same time, they're still, I love you, you know, I love talking to you, you're my soulmate. All of these things that we love to hear. They will also pull you off of the platform that they first met you on. So if you were on eHarmony or whatever, they'll say, you know what, let's just text or email. And part of the reason they want to do that is because these sites are watching for this. They know that there are scammers out there. So they want to get you off of that platform to get off of the radar of the company that is trying to catch these scammers. They will also come up with some kind of weird reason why they want you to keep the relationship secret. Something like, you know, oh, I've been a pretty well-known business person in a neighboring area, and I just don't want people to find me now because I'm not doing that work anymore, and I'm just tired of getting calls and stuff, so just whatever, the myriad of reasons that they don't want you to talk to anybody. And again, that's because, and we have literally had instances where family members have known about a relationship, quote unquote, and the person is convinced. It can be a normal person. There have been people out there that we have talked to and said, you know, oh, this celebrity is in love with me. They're absolutely in love with me. And the family says, no, you are out of your mind. That's not true. They've called us. We have gone and flat out stood there saying to the person, there is no way Tom Cruise is in love with you. But people get convinced. That's really frustrating when that happens because we know it's happening. They're trying to stop it sometimes. They're so good at that manipulation. So what are the tips? That first one, a lot of people say, well, that would never happen to an adult. That's kids that send intimate pictures. That is not true. And the problem with adults sending intimate pictures is if you include your face in the picture and you're easily identifiable, and at some point along the line you realize, oh no, this is a scam, and you try to back out, now it turns into extortion. Because they'll say, oh, you remember that picture you sent to me? I'm going to send that to all your friends. I'm going to send that, or I'm going to post that up onto Facebook. And now, you know, you pay me $8,000 or else I'm going to post that. And now you're in big trouble. So please, never, ever, ever, period, to anyone at any time, don't send intimate photos. And pass that on to family, friends, grandchildren, reinforce it. It's a topic that's uncomfortable, which makes it more important to talk about. Okay. Look for inconsistencies in a story. Because they are working with different people over a long period of time, if you're paying attention, you might catch inconsistencies. You could ask questions about the specific area. You know, they might not know chomping at the bit. You could ask them something very specific about the area that they claim to be from. Just start chipping away, make sure. They always cancel plans, be suspicious of that. And never, in any circumstance, send money, and don't accept money or gifts either, because they could actually even use you inadvertently for something like money laundering if you take their money. Okay? All right. The emergency fraud, and a subvariant of this is the grandparent fraud. Have any of you had these calls? Yeah, there we go, a few hands around the room. They're good, aren't they? They are really good at doing this. And it's getting scarier because of the advances in technology, and especially artificial intelligence. There are AIs out there now. I could talk to an AI for about a minute and it would be able to replicate my voice. There are really inexpensive pieces of technology out there you can plug into your computer, and I could be talking in my normal voice and I'd sound like a 13-year-old girl. So you have to be very careful. So the way this game works is they will call you in a panic, pretending to be a loved one that is being arrested or is in trouble, is some kind of an emergency situation, and they need money. And if they don't get money, they're gonna go to jail. Or you're gonna go to jail for obstruction. I don't think we usually tell you if we're gonna put you in jail. We just kind of get you. And of course, they'll ask ask you to send money to help. And again, there's more than one person working on these usually. So there might be the original call, Grandma, I'm in trouble. And your immediate reaction might be, Billy, is that you? What'd you just do? Yeah, you gave him the name. Boom, one more piece of information. That's Billy. I just got pulled over by the police, and if I don't get $3,000, I'm gonna go to jail. Here's the officer. Talk to the officer. And then another voice comes on the phone. Yes, this is Constable Smith. And we did catch Billy. And if you don't send that $3,000, he is going to go to jail. And they get you panicking. And they get working your emotions. And once you've started down that rabbit hole, it's hard to stop. So the red flags on this one. If they request payment by gift card, if anyone ever requests payment by gift card and they are claiming to be a lawyer or any government official or the Canada Revenue Agency, government, all of these organizations do not take payment by gift card. Period. Same thing for money transfer or Bitcoin. Governments don't take Bitcoin yet. If there's a pressure to send the money by a specific time, you've got until this time tomorrow to get that money to us or Billy's going to jail, or we're going to come and get you. They are rushing you. They are making you feel panicked. They do not want you to take 5 to rethink what's going on. They don't want you to talk to 2 people. Because as soon as you talk to somebody, they're going to say, what? Billy's in the basement. And of course, they're going to ask you to keep it secret. Again, keep you separated from anybody else that might be thinking with a clear mind, that might not have that emotional hook into them. So what do? Slow things down and verify the story. There have been instances, I've heard about these, somebody got the call and they got this panicked voice on the phone, oh, it's Billy Benson, and they turn to somebody else in the house and say, can you call Billy quickly? Just calm down. Pick up the phone and call, I'm under arrest, I'm in the basement playing computer games. Verify. If needed, hang up and call. They want you to be panicking. They don't want you to take that time to verify things. Ask questions that only they would know. You can use code words. You set up code words with your family. Even something as simple as, oh, Billy, how's university going at Carleton? Oh, Carleton's great. You know, Billy goes to Western. Right? Just there's little tricks, little ways. Ask them something that only they would know. just to try to put holes into that story. Really be careful about sharing any details. Like that, right off the top, that example of, oh, Billy? But also remember, there is a lot of information out there online available about all of us. Facebook, great way to keep connected. Also a great way for people to find out a lot of information about you, because there'll be pictures. A lot of the pictures will have you and family. Oh, here's me and Billy at Canada's Wonderland. Now they've got the name. So when they call it, they can say it's Billy. So you need to keep all of these other things in the back of your mind, asking questions, verifying, or just listening to your spidey sense. This seems really weird. Wasn't that Brad guy warning me about something like this? Confirm the whereabouts, obviously, just hang up and call. And again, this is one that's across the board. Never, ever, ever provide personal information of any sort, financial information of any sort, nothing to somebody that calls you. Only if you initiate the call, and you initiate the call to a number that you know is the correct number for who it is you're trying to reach. Because call display, that number can be spoofed. What you see is not always correct. There are instances where people get calls and the call display says it's OPP. It's not us. And there are times you get calls from us that will say OPP BCC London or no caller ID. When I get those, I know it's someone calling me from detention. But you can't always rely on what the number says. So, I remember what the other ones are. Yeah, okay, hang on. I'll get to that point in the next one. So yeah, just don't give any private information over the phone. Mostly on time here. CRA fraud, very timely. CRA Canada Revenue Agency. I keep forgetting to mention that in my presentations because I work in the accounting industry, so I think everyone knows what CRA means. So in this one, they will call you claiming to be a CRA employee, that you owe money. If you don't pay money now, they're going to send the police to arrest you, or something else really bad is going to happen to you. And they'll ask for personal information because we need to verify that it's really you that we're talking to. Yeah, horse feathers. So the red flag is on this one. If somebody ever calls you claiming to be from the CRA and they threaten you or they swear at you, that is a dead giveaway. It's not real. Because if a CRA or any government employee did that, they'd get fired. They'd be in huge trouble. They cannot do that. If they threaten to arrest you because you have unpaid taxes, that does not happen. The CRA doesn't phone people and say you're going to get arrested. If you have amounts owing, they will mail you, or they will put that information into your online CRA account, and they will email, not telling you what it is, but they will say you need to check your secure online CRA account. CRA doesn't take gift cards. They don't take crypto. And if any of you have an accountant that prepares your taxes, there's the real call that you make to your accountant and say, hey, I just got a call from the CRA saying I owe $3,000. What am I paying you for? You screwed up. So tips for this one. Never press 1 to speak to the agent. If the CRA needs to reach you, there are There are occasions that they will phone. It's very rare, but there are. Call them back. But don't use the number that they tell you. Use a number on an official piece of information or an official site. So you might have a notice of assessment from a previous year. There will be a contact phone number on that notice of assessment. Or you go to the verified proper CRA website and get the contact phone number from there. And again, this applies for any type of call that you get from somebody, because some of them will even say, oh, I know you want to make sure this is legit, so you can call me back. Here's the number that I'm at. Don't use that number. Verify it. Get an alternate source. The CRA does not send links. They do not send emails asking for personal information. That's not how it works. If they want personal information, if they need more detail, if they want to get important stuff to you, it's in a written letter, or as I said, in an email telling you to go to your online account. Good point for anything, don't click on links in unsolicited emails. They can take you down nasty internet rabbit holes, you can get viruses onto your computer. Don't use the links that get sent to you unsolicited. Go to the proper sites. And our fourth scam is the bank investigator fraud. And I've left this one in, that we literally talk about this all day. We could talk about fraud and the different frauds out there all day long. I've left this one in because a little over a month ago, there was an officer on patrol somewhere in the county, and they walked into a convenience store, and there were two senior citizen women buying $1,000 worth of gift cards. And the officer thought, that seems a little strange. So she asked these ladies, oh, what are the gift cards for? And they got all nervous. And they didn't want to talk to her. So the officer said, did somebody call you, or did somebody tell you to go buy these gift cards and send them to them? And they said, oh, but we're not supposed to tell anybody. We're helping the bank. We're helping the bank investigate one of their tellers that they think is stealing from them. That's what the bank investigator fraud is. So they will call, impersonating somebody from a bank. They will say, we've got somebody at the bank we think is stealing. We need your help. We need you to go and make a withdrawal. Don't say anything. And then bring it to us or send it to us, and we'll put it back into your bank account. Yeah, right. So the red flags on this one. Here. Sorry to tell you, you're not that important. Banks don't need your help. But we think we want to be helpful. And there are some people out there who think, oh man, this is really cool. I can help with an investigation. I can be like an officer. That'd be great. I always like to get caught. They do not ask for help on this. They have their own departments to do this. Or they call us. But surprisingly, they don't. They do it all internally because they don't want information out there that they have been defrauded. So, a lot of these, and this next point is, again, across the board, and it's also really applicable to the grandparent scam. A lot of these calls are made early in the morning, or even in the middle of the night. Because how many of us wake up instantly and our brains are clicking along and working really well? No. It takes me a good amount of time to wake up and shake the cobwebs out. They want the cobwebs, because if you're not thinking clearly and they come at you, it's like being in a boxing match, and getting hit, and then getting hit again really quickly, and hit again really quickly. And they'll just keep coming at you and coming at you and coming at you, and you don't have time to recover in between or get your thoughts organized, and you're already vulnerable because you're not awake, and they're going at you emotionally. It's nasty. This one, remote access to device, yes, no, sometimes on this, but an aside, Microsoft will never call you up and say, we've noticed your computer isn't working properly. If you give me access, I'll get it working right again. They're not watching you. Nobody is watching you. Nobody is watching the performance of your computer. Don't give control to anybody that just out of the blue calls up and says, I can help you. And again, in the bank investigator fraud, secrecy is really emphasized. You cannot tell the teller why you're taking this money, because you might be you might be talking to the person that we are investigating. We think they're the one that's actually taking the money. So that's what happened with these women that the officer encountered. They were really nervous to talk. And fortunately, the officer was able to stop that fraud from happening. You know, it's just flat out said, no, ladies, you are being scammed. This is not real. So, right place, right time, and great police work. Have I said this enough? Please just don't give it out. Don't give your personal information out. Stop the conversation. Take 5 minutes. Think about what's going on. Talk to somebody else about it. And be rude. Just hang up. And I can virtually guarantee there's at least 1 or 2 people in this room that thinks, you know, I kind of like it when these scammers call, because I like leading them on and just talking to them, because then they're not going to talk to somebody else. I'm going to slow down so they won't be able to call as many people. Please don't do that. Just hang up. Why? Remember what I said way back at the beginning? They are expert psychological manipulators. And you'll make them mad. And then they'll decide, okay, I'm going to play back with this person to try to get some kind of information. Where they are, a name, relative, a bank that they bank with. I don't need bank account information, but if somehow through the conversation and swearing at you and calling you all sorts of names and so on and so forth, they get you riled up to the point where you disclose a little piece of information and then think, wish I hadn't said that. Now they've got that. And they keep databases of this information and they share this information. These are not stupid individuals. These are networks. So just hang up. Thank you, sorry. If you have ever been a victim of fraud, so if you are actually a victim, you give money and then realize after the fact it's a fraud, please report it to us. It's important for us to know. I'm not going to say we can get the money back. There have been some instances where law enforcement has been able to get money back. That's pretty tough, especially if you're dealing with a scammer that's overseas. Overseas governments don't necessarily care about this stuff the same way that we do. Overseas fraudsters see us as their piggy bank. They're living in conditions that are so much more poor than what we have here. They see us as their piggy banks, and that we're legitimate, acceptable targets to take money from. The Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre is a key resource and a key reporting spot. The next slide that I have actually gives the contact number and their email address. And this recording is going to be on the website, so you can go back to that recording to get that information after if you need to. If it is a fraud for a financial institution, whether it be credit card or bank investigator, call that financial institution and let them know that people are out there perpetrating this specific fraud. Just back to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, they track all of the different frauds that are happening all across the country, and they will issue alerts saying, hey, you know what, in the Rockwood area or Wellington County, right now there is a real increase in the CRA fraud. Watch out. They track it, they want to hear. So even if you just get one of the calls or a text, I was doing one of these presentations once, and I had my cell phone on the table, and I got a CRA fraud text while I was doing the presentation. I was so tempted to take a selfie with the fraud presentation in the background and say, yeah, you know what, this might not work. But that would have been too much like leaving them on and just delete it. Anyway, and the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre has an online reporting tool that you can put any of these contacts that you get into that tool so they can track it. If something occurs online through a website, dating site, Facebook, make sure you contact the website as well. They are constantly monitoring, looking for fraudulent accounts, looking for fraudulent activity. And the more information that we can give them on feedback on this type of stuff, then better chance we'll have of shutting it down. Okay. So this is the contact information for the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. I'll just leave it up here for a minute so it's easy to find in the playback of the presentation. So my final tips, I'm not doing too bad. I'm a little over time here, not too bad. So my final tips for you. Hang up. Be rude. Save your pleasantries and helpfulness and respectfulness for the people that you reach out to and that you meet with face to face and your friends and family. Somebody who's just randomly calling you out of the blue. No. At the same time, don't be afraid to answer your phone. I do a lot of these presentations and a lot of people come up to me afterwards and say, you know what, I've just given up, I don't answer my phone anymore. If somebody really needs to reach me, they'll leave me a message and then I can call them back. You can do that. You're paying for this phone. It's your communication device. There could be something legitimately important being the first reason for somebody calling you. Don't be afraid to answer your phone. Just be empowered with this knowledge and keep your spidey senses up. And if something doesn't feel right, oh, you know what? Sorry, Billy, can I just call you right back? I just got to do something quickly. Click. Wait a minute, grab the phone. Make sure you have dial tone and call back. Use those spidey senses. If something feels too good to be true, it probably is. We have all heard that so many times. Yet again, we want to believe it. We want to believe people are good and kind, and the majority of people are. But the people who are not good and kind are really good at getting those of us who are. Stop, challenge, protect. Take that 5 minutes and talk to 2 people. Thank you all for your attention. As I said, will be here for as long as needed, got another hour or so to answer questions. And please talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to your neighbors, and we can all keep our properties and our money safe. Thank you.
Actually take some time for questions now if Brad is up for it, if anybody has anything they'd like to ask.
Do we still have people online?
Yep.
Does anyone have questions? Yes.
One thing with the grandparent thing, never give your grandchild's name. Give a name that isn't your grandchild. And say, oh, is that you, Peter? And they will say yes. Or is that you, George? And I do not have a grandchild with those names.
That is definitely a good way to figure out quickly. So I don't know if those online could hear that point or not. It was if you have somebody calling you in the grandparent scam and they don't give a name, give a different name. So if your grandchild's name is Billy, say, oh, is that you, Johnny? And if they say, yeah, it's Johnny, oh, then boom, right off the top, you know, this is not real. So you can really quickly hang on. Thank you. I think somebody over here, yes.
I was scammed with a Microsoft scam. They froze my computer.
Yes.
There was no way to exit out of it, and it said Microsoft and call this number and spyware has been detected. So of course I called that number and got this fellow, and yes, he said my computer was infected and it was totally looked like Microsoft. Until they asked me for money to go to the store and get a gift card at Walmart.
Perfect.
Maybe this isn't Microsoft.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
again, for those of you who couldn't hear, this lady is sharing a story of the Microsoft scam and the computer being locked up and everything looking like Microsoft. Called the number that was on the screen, and they seemed all nice and helpful until they asked for money by gift card. And boom, that was the red flag, and you knew, so well done.
Well, coincidentally, we just got a new computer for our son, he bought it for us, and that was the one that was frozen. We said, well, we don't want to bother them. They spent this money on this new computer, we'll sort this out.
Oh, so the timing almost seemed real as well. New computer from a relative, and yeah. And my presentation, I did one of these in Erin on Thursday morning, and a lady came up to me afterwards and she said, I'm so mad at Enbridge because I got a scam call for a maintenance plan renewal on my equipment, and I do have that with Enbridge. So somehow Enbridge gave away my information, and she was furious. And I pointed out to her that Enbridge probably did not. Enbridge probably did not get hacked. Their information did not get disclosed out into the wilds. Again, these scammers are smart. They know that in this area, Enbridge provides a lot of maintenance plans. These scammers will start at the first number for an area, and they will call every single number. Those systems dial the numbers for them. They don't specifically, they're not punching the numbers in on the phone themselves. It is a numbers game for them, because if they call thousands and thousands and thousands of numbers, all they need is one or two people to answer and start going down that road, and they've got a few hundred or a few $1,000s. So it's not, this is a great example. You know, you weren't specifically targeted with that new computer. They just happened to hit the right person at the right time, and they almost got you. Yeah? Yes, sir.
So, you know, we laugh at these people who do these stupid things, and I think I'm a smart guy, but I'm online doing some banking a couple of years ago and transferring some money, and just as I get off, I get an email saying, we have no notification from EasyWeb. here's the link, clicked on the link, put in my passwords, and suddenly it hit me what I had done, and I had to, I had to get on, but I would never have paid attention to that email if it hadn't been that I had just been on EasyWeb, and it just happened to be at the right time.
Yes. And again, for those online who might not have heard that, this gentleman was saying that he had just completed a transaction online with his bank and got an email from that same institution with a link. This is that these scammers rely on as well. It is a volume play for them. And they know that the odds are eventually they're going to hit the right person. Whether it be on the romance scam, whether it be on the bank investigator, it's just eventually they're going to get to somebody who has not attended a presentation like this or had somebody tell them. So, listen.
I get the duct cleaner phone call, and what I find works, and I'm not sure if it's right or not, I tell them I have electric heat, I don't have a furnace,
Yeah.
and they hang up right away.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even, it's chatter in the background to the call center before they get, oh, sir, right? So I hang up, they don't even get to say a word, so, yes, to that.
Recently I've been getting calls numbers and saying what they draw.
Yes. So the gentleman is saying that it's on your cell phone.
Yeah.
You'll get a call and it'll have the number displayed, and underneath it, it will say, likely fraud or likely spam, something like that. And that's something that the cell phone companies, you on Rogers?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get the same thing on Rogers as well. They are trying to raise awareness and to highlight things that might be fraudulent. It is not 100% correct. They're doing their best, but I have had those calls come in and say likely spam, and I've answered it, and it's been legit, totally, absolutely 100% legitimate call. So you can't rely on that, but in some cases, I've looked at it and said I've been busy doing something else or whatever, and I didn't even bother answering. That'll be one of those ones where I'll say, if it's really important, they'll leave me a message, and then I'll figure out what number I want to call them back on if they leave a number. But yeah, they're trying. Yes.
I've had the average call several times, and I know that I was covered to come in and do my maintenance, and but I've been getting a call at least 3 or 4 times now where set up an appointment for your inspection on your furnace and air conditioner and all that, and I'm saying to them, I'm under a plan that takes care of that, and they said, well, we're the ones that are coming in to do it, and I thought I had it done, so they had a conversation going, but I didn't set one up because I thought it was strange, so I just said, I'll call you back if I need it. And
yes, so she's saying she's had calls from Enbridge about service on her HVAC system, and have a maintenance plan. Those can be legit. I know that, but the right thing to do is say, oh, okay, I'll call back about that. And then call back on the number that you know is Enbridge's proper number, and then book it that way. Now, it's less likely that someone is going to say, make an appointment to come and do maintenance on your furnace. That's a lot of effort for somebody to go through, but it's certainly not unprecedented. And they could be sophisticated enough to say, all right, I'll go in and I'll actually get done some actual maintenance. Then they might start asking for payment, that would be one thing. Or they could be looking for what you have around your house. So it's always better to call back and use the number that you know is correct for them. Any other questions? Is anything coming on chat, Lisa?
No.
No? Okay. Yes.
I had 4 of the grandparents
4 times the grandparents skin.
First one, I just remember I called the child the wrong name. This last one, this was last week, they always say, "Hi, Grandma, how are you?" And this is your grandson. And I was like, "Oh, is this Peter?" Then they said, "And how are you, Grandma?" Well, this time I was ready for them. I said, "You know, I've got the flu. And I went right through everything with the flu you're using."
How long did it take for them to hang out after listening to your symptoms of the flu?
If you get it, make sure you take chicken.
Yeah, talking about the effects of the flu, that could be, that kind of reminds me of the thing that goes around Facebook every now and then saying, you know, oh, the CIA says, if you're ever somewhere and you don't want somebody looks like they're staring at you and watching you, pick your nose because then they'll look away. Yes.
There was a program on W5 about romance scam, and this poor woman's in jail, in prison in Thailand, I think, because.
Yeah, Hong Kong.
Yeah, Hong Kong.
Yeah, I saw that. Any of you watch Marketplace or W5? They're actually really good shows. Marketplace does a lot of work on frauds, and they've hooked up with some technology experts to actually try to catch some of these fraudsters. They've gone overseas. W5 has done the same thing, but there's some very scary stories out there. It's worthwhile watching it just to educate yourself on a lot of the different scams in various segments of society that are out there. But yeah, there's some sad stories. You remember the one, it was a Marketplace where they were talking about the various fraud schemes, including romance. And in passing, it was a really quick reference, but they talked about a retired police officer. He had been a detective for 30 years, and he got caught up in a romance scam and lost $30,000 or $40,000. So if a retired police detective can get drawn in, any of us can get drawn in. Take 5, tell 2. Yes.
I just question the idea of locking the window, because you said like 26% just throw things through the window. I don't know if it's really worth all the effort.
So locking windows, because 26% of the break and enters happen by somebody throwing things through windows. Yeah. It's a much less convenient way in. You can get security films to put on the inside of windows, especially if you have a doorway with the skylights. It's not too expensive to get a clear acrylic, plastic, whatever, security film installed on the inside that a hammer to the window and not be able to break it. It wouldn't be a breakthrough. It makes it kind of like the laminated safety glass on a car.
So it would be installed on the interior of your front area, or you're speaking of?
So I don't know the details of the products themselves, but it's generally something that you will get a professional to install because you want it properly installed. The warranty that they provide will require professional installation, but it is an option. It's not on the cheaper side of things, but it certainly is another way to secure your property for sure. Thank you.
I have a kind of funny story about that. One of the women at my last church had her van broken into and they smashed the window, and she was really upset because she never locks her car doors. But if you want your insurance to pay, your car doors need to be locked. So make sure that you are locking your doors and windows.
Yeah. Yeah, lock your cars. Please don't leave valuables in your cars. Don't leave your purse, don't leave your wallet. Don't leave anything of value in sight in the car when you leave it in your driveway, and lock the door. As we go, well, I might even come to some of your houses at some point doing something called lock it or lose it, where we will flood through an area that the vehicle breaking enters through the fires, reminding people of these things. So
Is do you have an opinion on TikTok or what's the other one, Snapchat? I have young adults, guys and daughters, and I don't check their phones. And, you know, there's some recent talk about how, you know, privacy or information was trying to own site or something.
Yeah, the questions about, in my opinion, on TikTok and some of those other social media sites that are out there, and security concerns such as the government of China, that's going to be, well, my opinion is, TikTok, really? No, thank you. I guess I'm getting into that older crowd. You know, you have to be security aware on any social media site. In terms of government, you know, China getting your information, that kind of stuff, I think they'd be more interested in federal government type of information or provincial government information. Is TikTok going to care about my name personally, or China's not going to care about me? China wants government information, in my opinion. But whatever social media sites we're on, and I think in this demographic, we're more likely to be on Facebook than anything else. Check your security settings. And if you don't know how to check your security settings, talk to friends or family and find somebody who does and who can help you go through those. Because the default for Facebook is annoyingly wide open. But if you know how to do it properly and get everything locked down, you can't find me on Facebook. I have to invite you.
What are you supposed to do when someone actually breaks in your house in the middle of the night and you find them?
If you are in the house and they break in while you're there, 911. Absolutely. And yell and scream and turn on lights, and because 99, well, I don't know what the percentage is, but the vast majority of them, they don't want to be found, they don't want confrontation. They want to get in, get stuff, and get out. So, home invasions, that's a different story. And for your own safety, and this applies, you will all have heard this from policing sources many, many times. If you're mugged or carjacked or somebody breaks into your house, don't fight back. Just give them what they want, get them on their way. Property can be replaced, people can't.
Any other questions?
I think that's good. All right. Again, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate the time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
I would just like to thank Brad for taking the time to come out and speak to us today. You covered a lot of really valuable information and in a very relatable, understandable, and usable way, which is sometimes not easy to do. So I know personally I'm going to go home and trim some shrubs. And probably talk to my children about some cyber stuff, but this is a token of our appreciation to you. It's local from all the people in the congregation. Everything that's in the basket has been produced on somebody's farm or property from the church. So thank you so much for everything. To finish off, we have some upcoming wellness sessions that if you haven't already signed up for, perhaps you would like to. Tim May's wife, Kirsten Graham May, is coming out to do pet wellness and health. So that is April 12th. We also have computers and seniors coming up on April 29th, and I'm not a senior yet, but I will probably still want to attend because it's still a bit mysterious to me sometimes, all this Wi-Fi business and lingo. And cyber safety and human trafficking prevention by Crime Stoppers and a different OPP on May 3rd. So hopefully you can all attend.
Is this all on Eventbrite, or do I
Yes.
go to the Stone Church website?
Well, you can do both. They'll be advertised on the Stone Church website, but it's all through Eventbrite, so virtual or in person.
So for Eventbrite, if you go to Eventbrite, type in Stone Church Wellness Series, the 5 or 6 of them all pop up.
This slide just tells you all of the different community agencies that Stone Church partners with, if you're not already aware of the different agencies that we outreach with, but we really try to be a community partner. And if you wish to donate to the church to help fund further wellness sessions or any other the community outreach that we do, this is the information on how you can help support us. We are a sister church with the Rockwood Church in town, so there's the information for both of our churches. And thank you so much for joining today online and in person. I think Brad's going to hang around a little bit longer, and we have coffee and snacks. Everybody can either take off and enjoy this beautiful Saturday or come and have a little bit of a treat and visit. Thank you again so much.